Hello, I'm Robert Scoble, and you're watching WorkFast TV, which is about how the internet is changing work. This show is supported through the generous support of SAP. SAP provides software that helps both large and small businesses manage their business, lower their costs, and bring more services to their business relationship partners. Thank you to SAP for supporting social media and WorkFast TV. My guest today is Yannis Papakonstantinou, sorry, founder of App2U, who made the system that TechCrunch used to work with 1,000 companies in producing the TechCrunch50 show. Rocky, you told me I would mess up your name, and I'm really sorry
No
about
problem.
that.
I go by Yannis.
Yannis. And he's also a computer science professor at UCSD, the University of California in San Diego. So I was really excited. I saw you guys in the demo pit at TechCrunch, and I was visiting a lot of companies. You caught my eye because you're helping a company, TechCrunch, work in a new way, and I wanted to see that. Your app helped them manage 1,000 companies and the judging process and everything. Tell me a little bit about
Exactly.
what it did.
App2U allows people to create custom hosted do-it-yourself applications where they can collaborate within the company, with their customers, in the case of TC50, with their applicants. So perhaps the best way to get the idea of what is App2U and what it did in the particular case also is to show a little demo of that of the TC50
and this is using fake data because the TechCrunch50 doesn't want you to see all the judging comments.
Absolutely. This is not only fake data, but it is also a simplified process that we have got here, because actually showing the complete process, these guys put a lot of work. They had a pretty complex process. It will probably take more than the 30 minutes that we have got here to explain all its nuances.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you basically a summarized version of what happened and a summarized demo of what went through. So
that's fair, because TechCrunch50 is all about demos, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So here is a part of this process. So initially, you have got the group of applicants submitting their startups.
Yeah.
Then reviewers of the TC50 organization do a basic first check of facts and of claims.
Yeah.
And the ones that get accepted through this round, they get to book time slots on a first come, first served basis with time slots that the reviewers of TC50 have got. In response, the reviewers see their schedules, whom they have to review at every point and so on. They do these interviews, they write down the comments. This keeps happening on a bunch of rounds.
Now, I know how TechCrunch works a little bit internally. They have employees all over the world, right? And
Correct.
Jason Calacanis lives in Southern California. Mike lives in Northern California. So this alone is why this show was developed, to show off how work is changing.
Absolutely.
Thanks to the internet. This wouldn't have been, I used to plan conferences like this, and we used to do this stuff on Excel, right? And they would not have been able to do such a dispersed judging process.
Absolutely, and that has been a huge value for them, because when you go into Excel, a first problem you have got is versionitis.
Yeah.
Who has got the latest version of the status? Here, as you will see, they go on a page, they know what is the status of each company. They know who has not responded, about whom they have to act, who has to act, what is the next step. An extremely efficient way. You save yourself from exchanging emails, faxes, Excel spreadsheets, and whatnot.
Yeah. App2U is not, you don't build apps for conferences, right? You build an app platform that people can customize to their own needs, right?
Absolutely. It is not about conferences only. It is not about reviewing. Actually, the truth of the matter is that the highest traction, the best need is that small and medium company that needs a web interface where it transacts with its customers, where the customer submits services, service orders, requests, and whatnot. And the company internally routes them, prioritizes them, establishes contact, and so on. Another very good area of traction, actually we had some non-profits doing some pretty cool stuff with it, is essentially for resource management. For example, a non-profit has built a pretty cool application where they have a loan library of devices and all sorts of stuff for people with certain disabilities, where they can get, check them out online and all of that stuff. So yes, it is much more general than reviewing for conferences or even reviewing only. Yeah. Of course, a lot of it is reviewing, like applications for managing the recruiting, Yeah. So.
But because a recruiter, an HR candidate goes through, like at Microsoft, I went through 6 interviews, and it would have been really neat to have those 6 interviews come back into a central. They were sending email around when I was doing it, right?
Correct.
So this could be used to really streamline that process.
Generally, reviewing applications will tend to look a bit like TechCrunch50, because TechCrunch50 was reviewing and rating application at the end. But as you mentioned, Up to You is doing many other things as well. So it could be your small CRM, your small ERP, if you wish, for resource management and so on.
Yeah. So TechCrunch50 had a pretty set workflow. Did they have that workflow figured out before they came to you, or did they come to you and say, hey, we're messed up, we have 10 employees and we have 1,000 companies that are sending us stuff?
It was something that we enjoyed. Actually, I think they enjoyed working with Up to You, and we enjoyed watching them grow along the way. So basically what happened is that they started with the basic parts of it, the page where you submit your startup and they can see who has submitted, right? And they start collecting applications since, I think, back April. And then you get into the reviewing. And based on the volume that you have got and the challenges it presents, they start finding their way and setting up the next steps that we talked about, step by step, always adapting to how things look at this point, So I'm not sure whether they had initially in mind that it's going to be, say, so many rounds of interviews, or it would be fewer. That was like finding their way. And Up to You is great about this, because basically in a few hours, in a few minutes, you change the process. Yeah. So that you decide at 8 p.m. to change it at 10 p.m., it's a different process.
Right. What makes you different from a lot of the other workflow style apps? I know at Microsoft I interviewed the workflow team there, and they were trying to attack some of the same problems, but from the bias of Office, right? They assumed everybody had Office, and they were trying to add on workflow features. But what separates you from that, and what separates you from some of the other players like Zoho, who are trying to build databases and stuff like that?
That is a good question. So what separates us is the focus on allowing the business process owner to do the process on the web himself. That changes the mechanics when it comes, for example, in a comparison to Zoho, radically. Why? Because now you are saving cycles. How you're saving cycles? The typical way by which a web application is built is that you collect requirements, right? A developer builds something, you see it, you're saying, okay, that part I like, that part I don't like, we go into another cycle. Here you talk about a totally different system. The owner goes on his browser, starts specifying the pages, just by how the pages look and by answering simple questions that Up to You is putting on him about, like who has access to this page, how many records one may submit, and so on. You get a working application immediately right there. If you don't like what you build, you have seen it within 2 minutes. You can change it. So the process can rapidly evolve. That is a difference with respect to all the products that are addressed, hosted application products that are going towards developers. Here we don't really go towards developers only. Okay. Of course, developers can get a huge value by accelerating themselves immensely. Yeah. The second difference, then that goes more towards the Microsoft part of your question, is the extremely high customizability. That is, this has been created to enable any kind of workflow where groups with different roles and rights collaborate in any number of steps.
Yeah.
So it's not like a fixed process, like let's say Google Forms, where you submit something, it goes in a spreadsheet. That was the flow.
Yeah.
Right here, we talk about being able to put many steps, control who is allowed to do what in each step, guide people. Everyone knows where he stands. Everyone knows what he has to do next.
Yeah. What have you learned from dealing with TechCrunch? Have you changed your business from having such an interesting customer?
That was a very interesting application indeed. We have actually learned a lot the value of allowing the business process owner to rapidly evolve the process, because business is happening fast and people do appreciate being empowered to change the application quickly, to change the application themselves.
Yeah.
That has been a very, very big thing, a very big lesson for us, and we'll keep pushing even further and further towards this.
What should customers be looking at or aware of? Certainly, if I'm betting my business on a hosted application like this, a do-it-yourself application, that's a big risk for a company. And,
of course.
That's one reason I like that TechCrunch chose you, right? Because that was a vetting process that they went through. I'm sure they looked at several companies.
Of course.
You're a small business. We don't know much about you. Should we be concerned about that? And how do we get over that fear? What kinds of questions should we be asking of the vendors that we're considering?
Correct. First of all, let me qualify your answer when you're saying that someone is betting his business on it.
Yeah.
Really, up to you targets more the long tail of the tasks that someone has to do within his company and with his customer. So, no, Mike Arrington has not chosen to replace the blog that he has got with Up to You, right? I mean, it is the core of his business. He has a very particular software that very justifiably is using for this.
But if he got halfway through the judging process and it started crashing or data went away, that is a non-issue, because basically this Up to You has got all the properties that basically a database system has. That is, all the data get logged at all times. There is recovery mechanisms that even if something crashes, recovery mechanisms start operating and recover the whole process, the whole database right where it was, so you don't lose anything. There is the security mechanisms, HTTPS and so on. So when it comes to these mechanical aspects, someone does not have to be afraid a bit about using Up to You. It's basically the same as a database. After all, underneath, we are using a database. This is built on top of Postgres. Yeah, but you can see where a customer might have that fear and might want to stick with something that they have control of in their corporation, right? Because you're the unknown. You're the guy trying to change the world and coming in with a new way of doing business.
And actually, we are hearing two things about this that we plan to activate pretty soon. The first one is that some people feel better if they had Up to You running in a box within their firewall, right? So we do not yet sell boxes, simply because it makes our life much simpler now to just have a single host. But this is something that we are going towards. So basically, you take your own Up to You. You don't have to be afraid about the security issues and so on. Along with this, then you own the database. So again, you don't have to be afraid. Well, what if there is another 2,000 applications on my server at Up to You? Do I have to suffer from the load? So this is coming up, so people will have their own Up to You as well.
Yeah. Why did you get into this? The do-it-yourself application business?
So basically, that was happening because I was working naturally on database-driven web applications, either at consulting, either some applications I was helping the school, UCSD, where I worked to build. And always I was going through the usual process. Ask the business process owner, why don't you start outlining the steps? Who does what in your application? And they would put pages that they would say, okay, I have this page where, say, so-and-so will submit this data. And then okay, what next? And then I have this page where these data are being shown on this other page that is accessible by these people. And at some point, I started looking at many of these applications, and I said, you know what I'm asking people to put on paper, I could put an interface that is prompting them to design these pages, that is prompting them the questions I am asking them, and produces on the spot an application. That's what got me down that path, and the experience I had basically interacting with people, specifying their applications, shows basically on the way the product turned out.
Can we see the TechCrunch app? And
absolutely. Can we switch to the screen?
If you could switch to the actual app, though.
Okay.
I want to see the app. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to see that process that you just talked about, the process of prompting me to design the
absolutely, app. Absolutely. So let's see a bunch of things about it. So folks, here it is here you see the page where people can submit their application. So let's assume an imaginary applicant of TechCrunch. I'm using it as imaginaryfoo@gmail.com.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to see. Okay. So let's see the first principle that we discussed about do-it-yourself applications. People should be able to do changes, and these changes immediately reflect on the page. And just by the visual of it, by what you see is what you get, they should know what they have done.
Yeah.
Okay. So consider this page. I can, for example, drop in yet another field. Let's say a field for the URL of the company, because it seems I did not put such a field. You see, I'm deciding to drop it here, and I have yet another field.
Okay.
You see, if I edit now, I also have a web address field. So that is the first part of the do-it-yourself experience, getting the idea just from the visual. We will see more along this.
And do I save this page, or do I, if Mike was working on this page, would he just see the web field show up? Or?
As I did this, the database schema has changed underneath, the database has been revised, the program that is getting data from the database to this page has been revised as I clicked this.
Wow.
It has happened now.
Yeah.
So let's go to the second step. Let's go to the step where these guys review the startups. Again, this is a simplified version, and you can see here, this page now reports data that they collected from applicants. So here we assume that YouTube and Facebook and all these people have applied.
Yeah.
And they come here now, and this page is available, as you can see here, to the reviewers. And they can submit extra data. For example, round one accept. This will enable the particular applicant, based on the other pages that we have got, to book an interview with the TC50 folks. Okay, so for example, let me do the YouTube.
So this is really interesting because it shows the workflow of the rounds that they went
exactly, and in 1 minute we will build it ourselves here in 1 minute.
Wow.
Okay, but so here you get the functionality. So I'm going here, I'm saying, yeah, Facebook and YouTube are good for a round one accept. Okay, and the final step that these guys have got is after the interviews where they get comments and so on, they go to the final decision, and this is yet another page available again to reviewers, as you see here, where they put the final status. Are they gonna get, like be one of the 50 that present on stage, just a demo pit, or rejected? So let's say that the YouTube makes it to final presentation. Okay, so you see how the workflow is moving from step to step. You get companies, you annotate them with round status. In response to this, they get steps and so on. How hard it is to make one of these pages? Let's go for this one, the final decision. Let's say I have one page already that's called status list. It simply shows the statuses of companies. Now, in order to get from this to show the final decision page, I have to expand this with companies, right? Okay, I want to expand my report. I go to the report. Look what it says. you can extend the page with data collected from other pages. Oh, okay. Which pages? Oh, you can extend with data collected from review startups. Yeah, I want to do this.
Okay.
It's working. A new page has came up. Robert, just think how much database work is on this work, on doing this. Right? We started with a page basically that was showing only the list of statuses, and we have now a page that for every status has the whole companies that are in this status.
Wow.
All the queries.
That
prepared.
lets you visualize your project in a whole new way.
And look basically how easy it was for people to specify this. We didn't ask them to specify queries. We said, okay, you've got this page. What other data you would like to show in it? From what step of the process? And they said, well, okay, I want data from the review status. And here it goes. Okay, but that was not all.
What if we wanted a new data type, like a seismic video, for instance, or something like that? How hard is it to add that in? Can I add that in through a web service so that it talks to that, or?
Absolutely. So that actually also goes down the path of the credit cards that we said before. For example, we're working on now on attaching a component which is credit card charging. Take the form, connect it to credit card. Because for many companies, it is very important that the process also has a credit card step where they sell something to the company, the interact. The mechanism is pretty much the same. You are saying how the pages interface to what in this component. For example, if it is a credit card, you know what goes, where is the card number, and so on.
Can you also say that I want this piece of data to be shared out to a blog or something like that? Because like TechCrunch has the Crunchbase, right?
Correct.
Well, they're collecting 1,000 companies' pieces of information here, right?
Let's look at it.
And it would be really cool to shove, at the end of the process, to say, shove all of the descriptions over to Crunchbase so that they automatically build a Crunchbase.
On one click.
Yeah.
You see, look at this page now. It is available to owners only because it's the two of us as we build it.
Yeah.
You can go here. One of your options is to make it available to the universe without requiring any login. Another option is actually to, following up on this, is that you can just make this appear as a frame on another page. So you can basically show it embedded into the blog. Of course, I know that the guys don't want to do this because it is very sensitive data, but in principle, it is something that can be done. Actually, we had some other applications that have embedded up-to-you pages as frames into their marketing-oriented static pages.
Interesting.
Let's finish the page that we had before. So look. Here we have got this page. So now it's not only about a status list. This page is really about companies. And we want it to become the page where we will put the final decision. What does it take to do this? Well, let's go to the create that allows us to put new fields in. And we want to put what? Let's say we want to put a radio button that will allow us to specify which companies will be TC the 50, which companies will be on the demo pit, and which companies are going to be rejected. So it's yet another and final step in the process. So here we are. Let's change this to call it final decision. And you got it. Let's also say who has access to this page. The reviewers would be a good one. And you are almost ready to go. We can probably hide this thing also. And here's the page that we saw.
It's that fast.
2 minutes before. You just put steps in. You say what each page reports. You put extra fields that take the next action, and that's it.
Wow. Now, and you keep track of all the revisions. So if Mike and Jason are fighting over that button,
that is actually a very good question, and actually they can decide how they want to go about it. That is, on this, let's say, final decision, final annotation.
Yeah.
You can configure. Let's say we put the 50 here. Okay, so YouTube is a TC50 now company. Well, let's go to design mode. You see that an edit and the remove is available next to it. Well, do you want it to be an edit and remove? Or people want, if I said so, it is so, it cannot be removed. Well, if you don't want it to be removed, go to the configuration of the remove here. Users cannot remove.
Yeah.
And done. Now, once it has been said, it has been said. Right? So it is up to the business process owner to specify these things. And for example, the TC50, Heather and Tanya put their mind into it, and they made the decisions that apparently made the reviewers happy.
Yeah. They probably locked Mike out of it, right?
I don't know, but they did make decisions about this.
Yeah. What's next for your company?
So right now we're still running our beta program. We have got many good pilot projects from which we have learned a lot. Perhaps this was the most complex that we have gone into, the complete TC50 application. And we're getting ready for a general availability where we will put forward the full revenue model of the company and an even better system for basically probing the user about the right question at the right time, making the business process owner or the IT person that does not want to get into the low-level detail of programming, build an application in a few minutes, evolve an application in a few minutes.
Yeah. How do I pay for this? And what's your business model?
Yeah.
I know you don't have that all figured out, but like for an app of this scale with a bunch of customers outside and a few team members, how would I pay for this?
Yeah, it is a combination. So the main part is usage-based fees.
Okay.
And the usage-based fees,
what do you mean by that?
You're basically paying according to a number of parameters, like the number of users. But in addition, because it is a very common case in Up to You that you have got a few very busy users within the team and a huge crowd of outside users, customers typically, that we have something in the plan that makes it easy to scale the number of outside users without basically, paying as much as you pay for the busy users.
Yeah.
So that is the one component, the usage-based fees that take account that you have got groups with different roles, different rights, different levels of activity. And we also help, when we help people kick it off, or when we help them with some strategic process advice, there is a service component into it, which is very beneficial to all, since they can achieve so much stuff in so few minutes.
Yeah.
And these are the two main components, and the third one that's coming up pertains to basically credit card services on Up to You.
Oh, very cool. So this is really neat system. I hope the viewers got a chance to see what I saw on the demo pit, because I was like, wow, I want that for a bunch of my projects that I'm trying to keep track of.
Absolutely, and we'll be happy.
What's that?
We'll be happy to see your processes, your shows on Up to You also.
Very cool. Thank you for being on the show and taking the time to do it on this busy week. Next week's guest is Greg Brockway, president and co-founder of TripIt, which is an online service that helps you when you travel. That show has been pre-recorded, but we talk a lot about travel and all these new services that are integrating, just like your service is integrating. And it's really an innovative service where you can email your flight information to the service, and it builds all sorts of information about that. Hang with us for our live chat immediately following this show on kite.tv. It's kyte.tv/Scobalizer. And thanks for watching us on WorkFast TV. Now get back to work. So thanks for
Thank you.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
Goes really fast. Yeah.